What's going on, guys? Welcome to another 2021 NBA Draft Prospect full game video breakdown. Today we're going to be taking a look at Spanish center Usman Garuba. Garuba has played the last 3 years, I think, with Real Madrid in the ACB and in the EuroLeague. This game is a quarterfinal game in this year's EuroLeague against Anadolu Efes. This is game 3. I think they end up losing the series, Real Madrid. But Garuba's going to have a decent game. He's going to have 10 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists. And a steal in about 32 minutes of action. So I think this will be a good game to watch from him, and let's get right into it. He's going to be number 16 in the white. I'll circle him once there's so he has the ball right now. Just dish it off to his point guard. So that's going to be Usman Garuba. Interesting prospect just because he's really good defensively, but just offensively, there's really not a defined role for him. He's not a good shooter, not very comfortable with his handle or driving towards the basket. Probably best utilized as like a screener, as we saw right there on that possession. But, that's kind of just like the Usman Garuba experience. He's considered to be one of the better defenders in the draft in terms of versatility, foot speed, everything like that. You can see him guarding a point guard right there. He's switching pretty much every ball screen. Kind of got hung up there, but it's going to be a missed 3 for Anadolu. But, just a versatile 1 through 5 defender, basically, I would say. Definitely probably going to be in the late first round for me just because I don't really buy any of his offensive package just yet. The best thing he does offensively is probably pass. He's pretty good at making quick decisions, but then he'll also turn the ball over a lot. Just a lot of the things that we see from pretty raw offensive players in general. As we skip ahead here. You got a free throw, I think? Yeah. And so, he's been on NBA draft radars for a while now. I remember reading about him back in, 2019. He's just a guy that's always kind of been in the spotlight. Didn't really have a great year or really just overall productive year for Real Madrid this season as we see him in the pick and roll. He's going to be able to draw a foul here, and this is where he's probably best offensively, being able to be utilized in that kind of short roll situation, has some space. But again, I'm not a huge fan of the handle. I think he's pretty clumsy with his feet with the ball in his hands. Luckily, he draws a foul right here. I think he's going to go 1 of 2 from the line. 1 of 2 from the line. He was only a 50... Let's see what we got. Very, minimal free throw shooter. Not somebody that is going to make a whole lot of them. The shot is pretty mechanical, stiff, ugly, whatever you want to say. That's probably describing it. We'll watch him right here. You can see in the playoffs he was averaging around 50% from the free throw line, so that's not good. And again, very mechanical. That one's pretty short. And that's something that he definitely needs to work on considering his size. He's only 6'8", 6'9". And so having a guy like that be a center is obviously not ideal because he is just going to be out-rebounded because of his height at times. And so you're going to need to have him be somewhat of a threat from at least the mid-range, right? Right there again, and kind of I don't even know what this was, but again, they're using him in the pick and roll, right? Looks like a lob. I don't know if this was supposed to be a pass or a shot. Regardless, though, you could see kind of the lack of polish he has offensively. I think that's probably the biggest concern with him, and that's why I'm not really touching him in the top 20, despite having such great defensive qualities that any team would want. I think in my mock draft, I had him going to the Clippers at 25, and I think that would be a perfect spot for him, just because he wouldn't need to be, offensively relevant necessarily on that Clippers team, and he'd also just give them another switchable big man option. We saw how teams treated Ivica Zubac in the playoff, right? Garuba kind of, mitigates that damage, I would say, just because he's able to play a variety of different schemes. He can play in the drop coverage as he did a lot for Real Madrid this season. He can play at the level of the screen. So there are a lot of good things that he can do. And so I think that's worth noting. We got, So Garuba, and again, he's not like a focal point offensively, only averaged, I think, we can see him almost get that rebound right there. Again, another guy who hustles, gets offensive rebounds, things like that. Only averaged 4 points, 4 rebounds, and less than an assist per game this year in 16 and a half minutes. In this game, it's very weird. If you look at his game logs and things like that, the minutes he got kind of fluctuated game to game. Sometimes he would play 6 minutes. Other times he'd play 32. Like tonight, he's playing 32. And so it's kind of weird to see. Typically, I don't like taking guys who play that little in the lottery for a professional team overseas. That's just kind of my, thing. That was kind of a reason why I didn't really like Deni Avdia, because he didn't really start for Maccabi, even though Maccabi was a great EuroLeague team, right? But that's just kind of my thing. Like, if you go back and look at, like Dragan Bender was a guy who didn't start. I don't think Darko Milicic started. Not to say that Garuba is going to be, like, taken that high. But again, right here, really nice job slipping the screen. And then the best thing he does offensively is pass the ball and make pretty quick decisions right here in the air. Just a simple jump pass to an open teammate for a dunk. That's a really, really high-level play from Garuba. And that's the type of offensive game that he has right now. Not really going to be a threat to score at any level, but you can see him picking up full court on their point guard, right? And so what frustrated me about watching this game is that a lot of times they'll have Garuba on a big, and he'll be playing drop coverage, which is definitely a schematic thing, and they don't really let him kind of just be unleashed. This is a rare example where he's just kind of, into the point guard's grill, moving with him stride for stride, right, showcasing that lateral quickness and ability. And I wish they let him do that a little bit more, but it looks like they're in a zone-ish right now. Very heavy switching. And Garuba, really nice shot contest right here. Again, on a smaller player. He can be put on an island, and he'll survive off of that island, right? And so I think that's something that's really, really important, especially today, when you see so many bigs being exploited in these playoffs, right? It's so important to be able to, play at the level of the screen and not just contain, right? And especially for Garuba, because he's not an elite rim protector. He doesn't have great vertical pop. He's obviously only like 6'8". It's really important for him to be as versatile on the perimeter as he is, right? And so that's something that I think really is important for him, and he's definitely shown that during his time at Real Madrid. So I think that's something that it's kind of a convenient skill for him to have, given his size and overall position on the offensive end as well. Let me see. So it's going to be Anadolu Ball. And again, this is a playoff game in the EuroLeague. This is like game 3 of the quarterfinals, I think. And Real Madrid's going to win this game kind of in a weird fashion. They'll go down by like 12, and then in the last like 5 minutes, they just kind of like go on this streak, and they just end up winning the game. It's kind of weird to watch. Garuba getting that rebound right there. And again, you can see him on the wing, and he's just going to try and trip over himself. And this is what I mean, where he's not, like, he kind of has the size to maybe like be like a guy that can break you down off the dribble, right, and be effective doing that. But his feet are just like so clumsy on the offensive end. People do like his handle. I don't really see it there. Again, the handle doesn't really mean anything if you can't go anywhere with it, in my opinion. And right here, just kind of, most of the time I'm willing to kind of just like, give people a benefit of doubt when they just fall down like that. But Garuba does it so often that I'm kind of just thinking like, okay, this guy's just kind of clumsy with the ball in his hands. Not a guy that can really attack you off of a closeout or attack you in straight lines, things like that just yet. He's much better, getting a pass kind of in that free throw line area, right? And just being able to create in like a 3-on-2 situation, similar to what we see like a Draymond Green do, or a Xavier Tillman do, people like that. You can see right there Garuba doing a nice job switching. And again, Real Madrid's going to switch basically everything. That's just kind of their scheme with Garuba, even though they're switching, but they're also playing a drop coverage, which is interesting, because usually if you're going to be switching, it usually leads to people playing up at the level of the screen. But with Real Madrid, it's kind of weird. Like, they're almost letting these guards kind of get around that ball screen and maybe have an open 3. So I was interested in that, like, in terms of schematics, but that's just something to note. You can see Garuba kind of just, he's playing a 5 right now, and I think that's probably his natural position right now, despite being only, again, 6'8". Again, good hustle, second effort, rebounding, things like that. Just can't get that one to go his way. And so I think that's something that I I'm very interested to see how a team develops him. Looks like we got a timeout for Anadolu, maybe? Yeah, timeout here. But I'm really interested to see like how the team uses him. Again, as we get later into the first round, fit becomes so much more important, and overall just development, like lineage and just kind of the plan of action for getting these guys to be good NBA players. And with Garuba, you could see him depending on the team he goes to, he could be a small ball 5. They can train him like that. They can maybe try and enhance those perimeter skills offensively. Because defensively, it doesn't matter where he plays. And usually the case with me is that, in terms of positions in the NBA, it's kind of like you are who you guard, right? And with Garuba, it's kind of the opposite because he can guard everybody, right? And we'll see him right here in the post. And again, just really raw, wild, reckless finisher because this should be an easy layup and he just totally botches that, right? And again, I'm very discouraged at like the overall offensive season that he had. I think a lot of people were expecting him to take a leap, and he didn't really. EuroLeague numbers weren't great. ACB numbers, I think he only averaged like 6 points a game in that league. So definitely something that he needs to work on, and that will overall enhance his overall like upside. Because again, people were talking about him as like a top 10 pick about a year and a half ago for this draft class, and then all of a sudden like a lot of guys in college played really well, and then Garuba didn't really have a great season, got inconsistent minutes as he gets that rebound right there. And he's kind of just fallen down the board into that 20 to 30 range, I would say. He's going to be a first-round pick for me. I think I'm pretty certain on that. But it's just like, I was a little bit more bullish on him a year ago at this point than I am now. We got Real Madrid with the ball. We're going to get a screen here. Garuba. And again, just simple stuff like this, right? We mentioned how he struggles attacking closeouts and really creating any offense for himself. Another example right here. Perfect time to kind of just get your defender off balance. But then what does he do? Like, he kind of just almost trips over his own feet and then dribbles it off of his shoe. Those are the types of plays that you're going to have to get used to, especially early with Garuba. I'm trying to think who he reminds me of. It's kind of a tough fit. I think, you can maybe see some like Sekou Doumbouya. Maybe some comparisons there as he's going to be out for a little bit right here. So I'll skip ahead. But it's just kind of interesting to see. Like, I'm thinking like maybe like in terms of size and like maybe what he's going to end up doing, maybe like a Paul Millsap if he ever grows offensively. But there are different types of, comparisons that you can make for him. I think Kevin O'Connor compared him to OG Anunoby, and I was just like, what? Like, I didn't see that one at all. But, a lot of guys are having difficulties kind of seeing his overall fit in the NBA. They know he's a talented defender. I know he's a talented defender, one of the better ones in the class. It's just offensively, like, how far can defense carry you in an offensively oriented NBA, right? Gone are the days of, like, Tony Allen just being on the floor for his defense, right? Those days are gone. So Garuba's going to need to at least be competent offensively. And so that'll be something that I think he needs to work on if he ever wants to hit that like starter level thing. Because he can play right away probably because of his defense as like an eighth or ninth man in the rotation, right? But just in terms of like reaching that ceiling, he definitely needs to grow on the offensive end. Decent finish right there by Real Madrid. It's always fun to watch these EuroLeague games. Like, admittedly, I don't follow a lot of them, but it's just fun to see like where all these college guys end up. Like, I was between doing this game and a game with Osvel, right? And like Osvel had like Gershon Yabusele, David Lighty, like all these guys, right? And it's just kind of fun to watch where all these college guys and former NBA guys go. Right here, Garuba, again, just kind of showing you that versatility, right? On a smaller guard, not really giving up a step despite being kind of beat with his footwork. But, just kind of having that speed overall that kind of covers for some of his technical mistakes. And those should only improve as he gets more training in the NBA. We got a foul here, it looks like. And yeah, here we go. So again, Garuba in that post. Now in the dunker spot, kind of roaming the baseline and can't get that one to go. And again, just kind of, it looks like he's shocked whenever he gets the ball. So like right here, I think he caught this pass out of bounds or it was dangerously close, and yet he still can't finish that, right? Really has no touch around the basket, I would say. No ability to like go up with either hand, anything like that. We looked at Josh Giddey yesterday, right, and how he has such phenomenal touch around the basket with either hand. Garuba's much more raw in that sense, right? And so you're going to have to kind of just, be patient with him as he grows offensively. See right here, playing at the level of the screen, that's better. And again, Garuba just on that point guard. They're totally comfortable with him switching, which I think says a lot. And again, look at how he's flying down from that top of the key, basically, to tip this rebound out, right? This is the type of effort and intensity that Garuba will give you from day one, right? Just kind of a hustle guy, an energy guy. We did Day'Ron Sharpe yesterday, and it's kind of similar. I think Garuba's much more fluid, just in terms of moving around the basketball court. I would probably say it's interesting because they're both. It's tough for me to rank Garuba and Day'Ron Sharpe. I think they're very similar for me in terms of where they're going to be placed on my big board. Right now, I'd probably give the edge to Garuba just because I know defensively he's going to be switchable 1 through 5. But Day'Ron Sharpe's another good player too. But the reason why I mentioned him is because we did a video on him yesterday, right? Or this morning, actually. And, we saw, the effort, the intensity that he brought. Garuba's a similar one of those guys who can just bring that hustle level to your team. And again, if you're a contender, I'd start watching these guys. I'd start watching a Day'Ron Sharpe and Usman Garuba, right? Because they're going to fall. There are going to be some good players in that late first round that could help you out immediately in your quest for a good postseason, right? Let's see what we got here. Timeout for Real Madrid, maybe. And here we go. So Garuba's on the block. He's a very good screen setter in terms of his frame and just positioning. We'll see a lot of times where he's freeing up shooters, kind of right there. That is quite the role. But, he's a good screener. He can set pin down, set flare screens. Ball screens, obviously, we've seen a little bit too. And he knows how to roll out of screens. It's just kind of just when he gets the ball in those rolls, what can he do with it? That's ultimately going to be the case. And we got him on the ball right now. Again, not much going on. So, right here, he kind of just falls asleep. And, I'm not... Listen, what is it? 4 seconds on the shot clock. So, Garuba needs to be in his grill a little bit more, I think. I recognize that this guy probably isn't a shooting threat. But, again, right there, you can see he kind of needs to be a little bit closer up, I would say. I will say, though, one thing that Garuba does well, and I'll just make a quick note of it right here. I'm going to try and pause at the right time. Yeah, okay, so right here. This is a perfect example of what I wanted to highlight. So you watch an NBA playoff game, right? And what's one of the first annoying things about it, right? What ticks you off? It's fouling 3-point shooters, right? Happens at least once a game, probably more now. Garuba kind of knows how to avoid these calls, right? Just watch how he's basically on I want to say this is a 60-degree angle, right? And he's extending that arm right to contest, and he's right there at the peak of the shot. And then watch how he's angling his body to kind of avoid those lower body fouls that we get called so often for, right? And so I think that this screenshot right here, it encapsulates everything about Garuba's defensive intelligence that you need to know. Because this is really, really advanced stuff. And I'm surprised that more people don't do it. But it's awesome to see somebody this young having an understanding of hey, we're not going to foul the 3-point shooter, right? And he's going to do this multiple times throughout the game. As unfortunately that one goes in, and he wasn't really playing super close. But that's something that I think he's really, really good at, and he has a great understanding of it. We got another ball screen here. Garuba's going to roll back into the lane. We got a 3 for Real Madrid. That one's not going to go. And here we go, Garuba kind of getting back on defense. He'll run the floor pretty well too, end-to-end guy. Not really classifying him as a rim runner just because he's not that vertically gifted. But definitely a guy who can run the floor like a rim runner, just can't finish like one, We got another timeout, it looks like. And here we go. Garuba's with the ball in the post. DHO, something that I think he'll be very utilized in terms of his offensive role early. Kind of those DHOs in the ball screen. Similar to what we saw Day'Ron Sharpe doing a lot of yesterday. I think Garuba kind of fills that spot as well. It's kind of just a pick and roll, short roll type of center. I think that's where you have to play him to get the most out of him right now. And then, if the ball skills come along, maybe he becomes like a Jeremy Grant type, right, where the ball skills just kind of take a massive meteoric leap. And then all of a sudden you're looking at one of the better two-way players in the game, right? So it's a big ask, and obviously Garuba's really raw still. But, you can kind of see just with his frame and mobility, just a lot of different outcomes for him developmentally, which I think is, remember, always a good thing, right? We talked about it with Josh Giddey yesterday, right? Like how, the more roles that you could possibly fill for an NBA team, the better your chances are of sticking in a league. Pretty obvious sentiment, but it's a very, it's one that's not really talked about as much as it should be. We hear about versatility, right? But not in terms of like, that's like a role, right? Like being a versatile guy is a role, not necessarily like having a lot of different potential roles, right? Right here, Garuba, really nice job getting the steal in the passing lane, right? Just being big, having his arms stretched out wide, and he gets that steal. He's going to run the floor a little bit. That's something that he likes to do, kind of get that rebound and run the floor. Not really confident in his overall transition offense game, just in terms of like running the show. But that's something that he does show flashes of from time to time. But that didn't lead to anything, and then there was a defensive stop for Madrid there too. And again, really nice job setting those screens, moving his hips. Right, you can see they're just trying to get that shooter open. They can't really get it. 44 did a nice job kind of dodging it. But he's being utilized a lot as like an off-ball screener, trying to get those screen assists, like, right, the Rudy Gobert thing. We got a foul here, so I'll skip ahead. We got one make. See what we got. So he's going to be in the post again. Similar stuff. Is it weird of me to say that he reminds me of Jeremy Grant without saying he reminds me of OG Anunoby? The more I'm looking at him, the more I'm thinking like, okay, maybe I could see a path there. I just think that he's not nearly as skilled on the ball as like an OG Anunoby was coming out of college. I think they're kind of doing OG a disservice in that regard. But it's just kind of funny. That's just kind of an interesting comparison I saw from Kevin O'Connor, whose work I very much enjoy. But I'm just not really sure I'm with him with that one, just in terms of the role he played at Madrid. Obviously, he's kind of like a small ball five, a combo forward type thing. Not a combo forward, kind of like a combo big, right? We got another timeout here. You can see Garuba has 5 boards already. Again, just kind of one of those guys who will carve out space well, has good timing defensively. Everything defensively with Garuba, I really have nothing to complain about. Just in terms of his timing, his quickness, intelligence, everything with him is good defensively. It's just like how much can he grow on the offensive end? That's ultimately going to determine how far he goes in the NBA. You can see right here, kind of in that help side position, and Garuba's going to get that rebound, and he's not going to run the floor this time. He's going to get it to a guard, probably the right call. We're going to get a ball screen with Garuba? No, a high post up into a DHO, right? That's the type of play, exactly what we saw with Day'Ron Sharpe yesterday, and something that I think Garuba can do very well as well, right? Just kind of like DHO, ball screen, right? And then into the DHO into that ball screen, right? Again, right there, that's just classic NBA basketball. And so I think that's something that he can do right away. We got shot clock violation here, and this should be the final 17 or however many seconds left. Garuba right here. Again, I think this is more coverage based, right? But like 7 seconds left, I would like Garuba to be up higher, right? And I think he's being told to play drop, which I think is kind of a mistake with him considering how gifted he is defensively. But you can see he's in drop, and this guy's going to launch a three. Garuba needs to be up there, obviously, better because we know he can contest threes really well. So that's why I kind of just like, when I was watching this game and doing my prep for it, I was a little bit frustrated with how like they were using him defensively. But I don't think an NBA team will be making that same mistake with him. But whatever. So yeah, that's the end of the first half video. Thanks so much for watching. We will see you soon for part 2. And remember, we got another video coming out later tonight as well. So stay tuned for that. Remember, we're looking for, 28 videos in the next 16 days. So hopefully you guys stick around with us. So thanks so much and have a great day. Bye.